Do you remember the little things that once defined everyday life in 1950s America? The corner barbershops, the milkman at your door, kids riding bikes without a worry in the world. Tiny details that stitch together an entire way of life. Somewhere along the way, many of those moments slipped quietly into the past, leaving only memories and old photographs. Today, we're bringing them back, one by one, as we look at 100 forgotten things from 1950s America we all miss. Jell-O salads with mystery contents. In mid-century American kitchens, nothing sparked curiosity or mild suspicion, quite like a Jell-O salad. These wobbly, colorful concoctions often appeared at church potlucks, family gatherings, and holiday tables, gleaming in shades of neon green, orange, or ruby red. What made them truly memorable, however, was the mystery lurking inside. Bits of fruit, marshmallows, vegetables, or even shredded meat might be suspended in the gelatin, creating a surreal mosaic that delighted some and horrified others. Recipes were proudly displayed in Betty Crocker cookbooks and household pamphlets, each promising easy, eye-catching entertainment for guests. The charm of Jell-O salads lay in their playful unpredictability. Every bite was a surprise, and part of the fun was guessing the ingredients before tasting. Today, they evoke a mix of nostalgia and bewilderment, a vivid reminder of an era when frugality, creativity, and a dash of whimsy came together in shimmering, jiggly dishes. Spam casseroles. Spam casseroles were a hallmark of mid-century practicality, symbolizing post-war ingenuity and frugal living. In the 1950s and 60s, this canned meat was a pantry staple, often mixed with canned vegetables, pasta, or rice, then bound with creamy soups and finished with cheese or breadcrumbs. The casserole stretched modest portions into hearty, family-sized meals, perfect for feeding kids or surprise guests. While the idea of baked canned meat in a creamy dish may seem odd today, it was once celebrated for convenience, affordability, and comfort. These casseroles embodied resourcefulness, proving humble ingredients could create meals that felt both filling and homey. Milk delivery bottles, clinking at dawn. In the quiet stillness of early morning, the gentle clinking of glass milk bottles marked the start of a new day in mid-century neighborhoods. Milkmen, sturdy and reliable, would make their rounds before sunrise, leaving chilled bottles on doorsteps, sometimes accompanied by cream, buttermilk, or a note from the dairy. The ritual was as much about community as it was about nourishment. Neighbors might exchange a greeting over a gate, or children would peek sleepily through curtains, eager for the first sip of fresh milk. These deliveries were a lifeline for households, long before the convenience of supermarkets and refrigerated trucks. The bottles themselves, heavy and reusable, carried a tactile promise of freshness, their condensation glinting in the dawn light. Today, the sound evokes nostalgia, a reminder of an era when mornings were slower, the world a little smaller, and the simple pleasure of fresh milk felt like a small daily luxury. Root beer floats at the drive-in. On summer nights in the 1950s America, the drive-in was more than a place to eat. It was a hub of social life under neon lights and humming engines. One of its sweetest highlights was the root beer float, served in frosty mugs that clinked on car trays. Creamy vanilla ice cream fizzing into dark root beer created a treat that was simple yet celebratory. Car hops delivered them with practiced charm, making each order feel special. Sharing a float became a ritual of joy, whether after school, during a movie, or on a date. A nostalgic symbol of carefree, soda-sweetened nights, homemade bread and butter pickles. In kitchens across mid-century America, the scent of simmering vinegar, sugar, and spices signaled the arrival of homemade bread and butter pickles. These sweet and tangy delights were more than just a condiment. They were a labor of love, a way to preserve the summer cucumber harvest for months to come. Thinly sliced cucumbers, sometimes paired with onions and peppers, were soaked in a brine of sugar, vinegar, and pickling spices, then carefully packed into jars that would sit proudly on pantry shelves. Every household had its own variation, passed down through generations or scribbled in the margins of a beloved cookbook. Bread and butter pickles became a staple on sandwiches, alongside fried chicken, or as a tangy contrast to hearty meals. Their crunchy texture and balanced flavor captured the essence of home cooking: simple, practical, and comforting, offering a taste of nostalgia with every sweet, vinegary bite. Kool-Aid pitchers with smiling faces. In the sunlit afternoons of 1950s childhood, Kool-Aid pitchers were symbols of carefree summer fun. Bright reds, oranges, and purples filled tall glasses or plastic cups, offering sweet, tangy refreshment that tasted like pure joy. Mothers mixed the powdered drink with water and sugar, filling kitchens with a fruity aroma that signaled playtime. Often decorated with painted grins or cheerful stickers, the pitchers themselves seemed to smile back, adding whimsy to the ritual. More than just a beverage, Kool-Aid was a shared experience, fueling laughter, neighborhood games, and the memory of cold, colorful drinks under a golden summer sky. Swanson TV dinners in foil trays. In the 1950s, Swanson TV dinners revolutionized mealtime, bringing convenience and novelty into American homes. Served in compartmentalized foil trays, these meals were designed to go straight from freezer to oven, promising a hot, complete dinner with minimal effort. Each tray was a miniature landscape of mid-century culinary ambition. Turkey or meatloaf nestled alongside mashed potatoes, peas, and a slice of buttery dessert. Families could gather in front of the television, trays balanced on laps, embracing a new era where entertainment and dining merged. The foil compartments not only preserved portions, but added a sense of novelty, the shiny surface reflecting the flickering glow of the TV. While modern palates might find the concept quaint or nostalgic, at the time, TV dinners were a marvel of convenience, a practical solution for busy households, and a symbol of post-war optimism, innovation, and the promise of effortless domestic life. Malt shops and soda jerks. Malt shops were the heart of 1950s teen culture, alive with jukebox tunes, clinking glasses, and the fizz of soda fountains. At the counter, soda jerks transformed syrup, carbonated water, and ice cream into creamy malts, floats, and phosphates, topping them with whipped cream and cherries in a flair that felt like performance. Teens crowded booths to share fries, burgers, and laughter, while romances quietly blossomed under neon lights. More than places to eat, malt shops were social hubs, where a simple chocolate malt carried the power to turn an ordinary day into something memorable and sweetly nostalgic. Tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole was a quintessential mid-century comfort food, appearing in homes across America as a practical, budget-friendly meal. Combining canned tuna, egg noodles, and a creamy soup base, often enhanced with peas, onions, or mushrooms, it offered a simple yet satisfying dinner that could stretch to feed a family. Topped with breadcrumbs or a sprinkling of cheese, the casserole baked into a golden, bubbling dish that filled the kitchen with a warm, savory aroma. Its popularity lay not only in convenience, but also in versatility. Leftover ingredients could be repurposed, and the dish could be customized to suit any household's tastes. Though today it may seem humble or even dated, tuna noodle casserole embodies the ingenuity of post-war cooking, where practicality met comfort. It remains a nostalgic reminder of family dinners, cozy kitchens, and the ability to transform simple pantry staples into a hearty, enduring classic. Ovaltine at bedtime. In many 1950s homes, a warm cup of Ovaltine was the perfect way to end the day. Mixed with milk, its malted chocolate flavor and gentle aroma brought comfort and calm before sleep. Advertisements promised nourishment as well as taste, making each cup feel like a small act of care. Parents stirred it into favorite mugs, sometimes adding sugar or cream, while children watched the chocolate swirl into smooth sweetness. The ritual wasn't just about drinking, it was about routine, warmth, and connection. Today, Ovaltine lingers as a nostalgic reminder of cozy kitchens and bedtime comfort. Hand crank egg beaters. Before electric mixers became commonplace, hand crank egg beaters were a staple in mid-century kitchens, embodying both practicality and a touch of domestic theater. With a firm grip and a steady turn of the crank, homemakers could whip eggs, cream, or batter into light, fluffy perfection, marveling at the rhythmic whirl of the gears and blades. These kitchen gadgets, often made of polished metal with wooden handles, were prized for their efficiency and durability, able to handle everything from breakfast omelets to cake batters with relative ease. Using a hand crank egg beater required patience and rhythm, a small daily exercise in precision and care, but it rewarded cooks with consistently smooth mixtures. Beyond functionality, the device represented an era of hands-on homemaking, when every meal was crafted with effort and attention. Today, the image of a hand crank egg beater evokes nostalgia for a slower, tactile, and deeply personal approach to cooking. Percolator coffee pots. In the 1950s, America, percolator coffee pots were the heart of morning routines, filling kitchens with the rich aroma of fresh brew. Unlike modern drip machines, they worked by sending heated water up a central tube, cycling it over grounds until the coffee was bold and robust. Their gentle bubbling and rhythmic gurgle signaled breakfast was near, whether on the stovetop or electric versions. More than practical, percolators carried a sense of ritual, each cup poured with care, often alongside newspapers or morning radio. Today, their sound and shine evoke nostalgia for slower mornings and the comforting rhythm of daily life. Ice cube trays with metal levers. Before automatic ice makers, aluminum trays with metal levers were kitchen staples in the 1950s. Their clever design let the lever flex the tray just enough to release neat cubes without breaking them. Filling trays with water and carefully balancing them in the freezer was part of daily household rhythm. Kids often marveled at the magic of pulling the lever to crack the ice free. More than convenience, these trays reflected a hands-on era of resourcefulness and patience. Today, they spark nostalgia for the simple satisfaction of making ice, one lever pull at a time. Rotary dial wall phones. Rotary dial wall phones were fixtures of mid-century homes, often mounted in kitchens or hallways. Numbers were dialed by turning a circular wheel, each click and whir stretching out the pace of conversation. Families gathered around these sturdy phones to share news or check in with loved ones, making every call deliberate and meaningful. The phone's placement gave it prominence, turning communication into a small household event. Today, rotary wall phones evoke nostalgia for a time when connection required patience, effort, and focus. An era when conversations weren't rushed, but valued as moments worth pausing for. Toasters that burned one side, always. In mid-century kitchens, the humble toaster was both a marvel and a mystery. These early appliances promised convenience and speed, yet many had a stubborn habit, burning one side of the bread while leaving the other barely toasted. Families quickly learned to adapt, flipping slices mid-cycle, or developing a fond tolerance for uneven browning. The smell of charred edges mingled with the warm, comforting aroma of toasted bread, becoming part of the morning ritual. Despite their quirks, these toasters were essential, turning simple slices into crispy, golden breakfasts, often accompanied by butter, jam, or honey. Their metal casings and mechanical levers added a tactile satisfaction to the process, reminding cooks that even small appliances required attention and patience. Today, the memory of a toaster that burned one side evokes both frustration and nostalgia, a charming reminder of an era when domestic life was hands-on, imperfect, and distinctly alive. Pressure cookers that hissed like locomotives. In 1950s kitchens, pressure cookers were prized for turning tough meats and vegetables into tender meals quickly, but their sharp, rhythmic hiss gave them a dramatic presence, sounding like a tiny locomotive at work. Homemakers managed heat and timing carefully, respecting the steam-driven power while savoring the aromas of stews and roasts. The hiss became part of the household soundtrack, both reassuring and commanding attention. Today, that sound evokes nostalgia for fragrant kitchens and an era when speed, precision, and a touch of drama defined home cooking. Fridges with tiny freezer boxes. Mid-century refrigerators often included only a small freezer box tucked inside the top, just large enough for ice trays, butter, or a few frozen dinners. It was still considered a marvel of convenience. Families learned to carefully organize the limited space, making the most of its frosty capacity. Despite their size, these compartments transformed daily life, preserving leftovers and offering frozen treats. The faint frost and quiet hum became part of kitchen routine. Today, tiny freezer boxes spark memories of simpler times, when even the smallest advancements felt like modern wonders. Chrome-trimmed ovens. Chrome-trimmed ovens gleamed in 1950s kitchens, symbols of modern design and post-war optimism. Their reflective edges caught the light, pairing beautifully with pastel appliances to create cheerful, stylish homes. Beyond their looks, the chrome trim was durable and easy to clean, helping ovens stay polished for years. Homemakers took pride in their sparkle, opening the doors to reveal golden loaves, bubbling casseroles, and Sunday roasts. More than functional, these ovens reflected the era's love of futuristic design. Today, their shine recalls kitchens where style and practicality blended seamlessly, making every meal feel like part of a modern, hopeful household. Tupperware parties. Tupperware parties were a cultural phenomenon in mid-century America, blending socializing, shopping, and domestic aspiration into a single, memorable event. Often hosted in living rooms with friends and neighbors gathered around a polished coffee table. These gatherings showcased colorful, airtight containers that promised to revolutionize food storage and preserve freshness. A charismatic hostess or representative would demonstrate the clever burping lids, stackable designs, and practical uses of each piece, inviting guests to imagine a more organized and efficient kitchen. Beyond the products, Tupperware parties were about connection. Women shared recipes, household tips, and laughter, turning a sales presentation into a community ritual. For many, the parties offered a glimpse of independence, an opportunity to earn money, and a sense of empowerment through entrepreneurship. Today, Tupperware parties evoke nostalgia for a time when domestic life, friendship, and ingenuity intertwined, and the simple pleasure of a well-sealed container could spark joy and conversation alike. Manual typewriters. Manual typewriters were a staple of mid-century homes and offices, their clattering keys and rhythmic carriage returns forming the soundtrack of daily work and correspondence. Each keystroke required intention, pressing firmly to imprint letters onto crisp sheets of paper, a tactile experience that connected typist and text in a way modern keyboards rarely replicate. These machines demanded patience and care, from threading ribbons to adjusting margins. Yet they rewarded users with neatly aligned pages and the satisfying click of progress. Writers, students, and secretaries alike relied on manual typewriters to craft letters, reports, and manuscripts, transforming thoughts into tangible form. The distinctive ding of the carriage return and the sliding motion of the platen were comforting signals of accomplishment, marking each line completed. Today, manual typewriters evoke nostalgia, a reminder of deliberate effort, the charm of mechanical ingenuity, and an era when creating written words required both skill and a steady hand. Drive-in movie theaters. Drive-in theaters were a beloved part of 1950s America, where families, couples, and friends gathered to watch films under the stars. Cars lined up before massive outdoor screens, while tinny speakers clipped to windows delivered the soundtrack. Concession stands sold popcorn, candy, and sodas, adding to the atmosphere of lights and smells. Blankets, lawn chairs, and reclining seats turned the event into both entertainment and social gathering. For teenagers, drive-ins meant independence. For families, shared adventure. Today, they spark nostalgia for a slower, communal era when movies were experienced outdoors, blending cinema, community, and the magic of night skies. Saturday morning serials. For mid-century kids, Saturday mornings meant thrilling serials that brought heroes, villains, and cliffhangers into living rooms. With bowls of cereal in hand, children eagerly awaited each new episode, whether Western, sci-fi, or cartoon. The format fueled excitement, with suspenseful endings ensuring viewers tuned in weekly. More than entertainment, it was ritual and community, sparking chatter among siblings and friends about favorite characters and plot twists. These mornings blended storytelling and imagination, creating memories that shaped childhood wonder. Today, Saturday morning serials symbolize a time when television was magical, routine was cherished, and weekends began with laughter and adventure. The Ed Sullivan Show. The Ed Sullivan Show was Sunday night television at its finest, uniting families around variety acts, music, and comedy. Ed's calm introductions framed performances that launched stars like Elvis and the Beatles, while showcasing dancers, comedians, and novelty acts. The show became a cultural touchstone, bridging generations as parents and kids enjoyed the same stage together. Sullivan's signature, Ladies and Gentlemen, set the tone for countless unforgettable moments, making television feel like a grand event. Today, the show embodies nostalgia for a time when TV shaped culture, created shared experiences, and brought the world's talent directly into American living rooms. Radio dramas before bed. Before television became a household staple, radio dramas were a nightly ritual in many mid-century homes, filling bedrooms and living rooms with stories that sparked the imagination. Families would gather around the radio, often in pajamas or nightgowns, listening intently as announcers set the scene and actors brought characters to life through voice alone. The crackle of the broadcast and the clever use of sound effects, footsteps, creaking doors, or distant thunder made suspense palpable, drawing listeners into mysteries, adventures, and romances. These dramas provided both entertainment and a comforting routine, marking the end of the day with stories that could thrill, amuse, or inspire reflection. For children, the experience was magical, a world created entirely in the mind, guided by dialogue and sound. Today, the memory of radio dramas before bed evokes nostalgia for a slower, imaginative era, when storytelling, attentiveness, and shared anticipation turned the simple act of listening into a cherished nightly tradition. Sock hops in gymnasiums. Sock hops were a defining feature of teenage life in mid-century America, transforming ordinary school gymnasiums into lively dance floors. Students shed their shoes to protect polished wooden floors, hence the playful name, and gathered under strings of twinkling lights or banners for evenings filled with music, laughter, and camaraderie. Rock and roll, swing, and rhythm and blues records set the tempo, while teenagers practiced their jitterbug, twist, or two-step moves, often cheering each other on with infectious enthusiasm. Chaperones kept a watchful eye, but the energy and freedom of the night belonged to the young dancers, forging friendships, romances, and memories that would last a lifetime. Refreshments like soda and simple snacks were shared between dances, adding to the festive atmosphere. Today, sock hops evoke nostalgia for a simpler, more innocent era, when community, music, and movement combined to create joyous, unforgettable celebrations of youth. 3D glasses, paper red and blue kind. In the mid-20th century, paper red and blue 3D glasses were a thrilling novelty that transformed moviegoing into an interactive adventure. Audiences donned these simple, lightweight glasses to watch films that promised images popping off the screen in dazzling illusion. The contrasting red and blue lenses worked like a magic trick for the eyes, creating the perception of depth and making characters, spaceships, or dinosaurs seem to leap into the theater. Children and adults alike delighted in the playful disorientation, squinting or tilting their heads to fully experience the effect, while popcorn and soda added to the sensory indulgence. These glasses were inexpensive, often disposable, yet they created moments of shared excitement and wonder. Today, the paper 3D glasses evoke nostalgia for a time when cinema was an imaginative escape, when simple materials could conjure extraordinary experiences, and when the thrill of seeing images leap from the screen united audiences in awe and delight. Westerns on black and white TV. Black and white westerns defined mid-century television, bringing lawmen, outlaws, and dusty plains into American homes. Families gathered around small sets to watch shows like Gunsmoke and Have Gun, Will Travel, where stark contrasts heightened tension in shootouts and adventures. Kids dreamed of cowboy hats and horses, while adults valued themes of justice and resilience. These stories became cultural touchstones, sparking conversation and shaping ideals. Today, westerns in grayscale evoke nostalgia for evenings when imagination filled in the colors, and television offered not just entertainment, but a shared window to heroism, morality tales, and the enduring spirit of the frontier. Record players with 45s. Record players spinning 45s brought music culture into homes, offering crisp singles perfect for dancing, singing, or sharing with friends. Teenagers treasured the ritual of dropping the needle, hearing the crackle give way to catchy melodies. From rock and roll to doo-wop, compact and collectible, 45s featured colorful labels that added charm. Families and friends swapped records, turning living rooms into dance floors and making music deeply social. More than machines, record players were portals to rhythm, expression, and cultural change. Today, they spark nostalgia for an era when music was tactile, immersive, and filled with connection long before digital streaming. Hula hoops. The hula hoop craze swept mid-century America, turning bright plastic rings into icons of fun and fitness. Kids and adults alike practiced twirling them around waists, arms, or legs, filling neighborhoods and schoolyards with laughter and friendly competition. Mastering tricks required rhythm, balance, and persistence, transforming ordinary spaces into playgrounds of creativity. The fad reflected the era's fascination with simple yet innovative entertainment that brought communities together. Today, hula hoops evoke nostalgia for carefree afternoons and spontaneous joy, reminding us of a time when play was active, hands-on, and delightfully uncomplicated, sparking shared moments of fun across generations. Duck and Cover School Films. Duck and Cover films, starring Bert the Turtle, taught Cold War children to drop and shield themselves during nuclear drills. Shown in classrooms nationwide, these animations combined serious instruction with light-hearted visuals, offering reassurance amid fear. While quaint by modern standards, they gave kids a sense of agency in uncertain times. Beyond safety lessons, the films became cultural symbols, reflecting the era's mix of anxiety, optimism, and ingenuity. Today, they spark nostalgia and reflection, reminding us of a world shaped by looming threats, yet softened through creativity, community preparedness, and the belief that even small actions could provide protection. Gas station attendants. Who cleaned your windshield? In the 1950s, America, gas station attendants offered more than fuel. They provided full-service care. Pulling up to the pump meant someone would fill the tank, check oil and tires, and meticulously clean your windshield. The swish of the cloth and sparkling glass became a small ritual, reflecting a culture of courtesy and pride in work. Friendly conversation and personal attention turned a routine stop into a pleasant experience. Families, commuters, and travelers appreciated the convenience and care. Today, memories of these attendants evoke nostalgia for a slower, service-oriented era, when even filling gas carried charm, connection, and a touch of everyday magic. Tail fins on Chevys and Cadillacs. Tail fins defined 1950s American cars, inspired by the jet age and space race. Chevys and Cadillacs gleamed with chrome accents and sweeping lines, signaling motion, modernity, and post-war optimism. Polished fins reflected pride, innovation, and futuristic flair, captivating both drivers and children marveling at showroom models. These bold designs symbolize prosperity, speed, and the exuberant spirit of mid-century America, leaving an enduring mark on automotive culture. Road maps in glove compartments. Before Jeep, glove compartments held essential road maps, guiding families and travelers across the country. Unfolding a paper map required planning, patience, and sometimes a shared navigation effort, turning journeys into adventures. The rustle of folds and tracing of routes became part of the travel experience. Today, these maps evoke nostalgia for tactile exploration, a slower pace, and the excitement of charting one's own course on open roads. Drive-through car washes with giant brushes. Drive-through car washes with giant brushes were a symbol of mid-century convenience and mechanical marvel, transforming the mundane task of cleaning a car into a spectacle of motion and sound. Cars would slowly roll forward as enormous rotating brushes scrubbed windshields, fenders, and tires, accompanied by the hiss of high-pressure water and the rumble of machinery. The experience was almost theatrical, with foamy soap cascading over vehicles in thick, sudsy waves, while attendants monitored the process to ensure every surface gleamed. Families and commuters alike marveled at the efficiency and speed, watching their cars emerge sparkling and refreshed in minutes. Beyond practicality, these car washes represented an era of optimism and technological innovation, where machines could simplify everyday chores. Today, memories of drive-through washes with giant brushes evoke nostalgia for tactile mechanical experiences, when even a simple car wash combined spectacle, utility, and the satisfying promise of a job well done. White wall tires. White wall tires were a symbol of style and sophistication in mid-century America, instantly elevating any car's appearance. The bright white sidewall against black rubber represented status, pride, and attention to detail, complementing chrome bumpers and tail fins. Maintaining the crisp white stripe required care, becoming a point of pride for owners. Popular on luxury and family vehicles alike, they reflected post-war optimism when cars were both transportation and personal expression. Today, white walls evoke nostalgia for classic automobiles, leisurely drives, and a time when even simple features were designed to impress, turning every vehicle into a moving statement of style. Hand-crank car windows. Hand-crank car windows offered a tactile mechanical experience, long replaced by power systems. Twisting the metal handle moved the glass smoothly along its track, making rolling down a window an intentional act. The clicks and resistance of the gears added rhythm to driving, and children often learned patience while taking turns. This hands-on interaction made cars feel more connected and engaging. Today, hand-crank windows evoke nostalgia for a simpler mechanical era of driving, when operating a car involved skill, presence, and a personal touch at every turn. Picnic baskets in station wagons. Mid-century picnic baskets packed with sandwiches, lemonade, and fruit were staples for family outings in station wagons. Spacious interiors made transporting baskets easy, while children eagerly anticipated stopping to spread blankets and enjoy meals outdoors. Unpacking the food, sharing stories, and savoring the meal created lasting memories of togetherness and simplicity. Today, these picnic rituals evoke nostalgia for slower, intentional travel, where journeys were as enjoyable as destinations, and meals in nature strengthened family bonds, reminding us of a time when outdoor dining was an adventure and every outing was cherished. Route 66, diners. Route 66 diners were iconic stops along America's highways, offering hearty meals, coffee refills, and friendly conversation. Neon signs, chrome accents, and checkerboard floors welcome travelers, families, and truckers alike. The smell of frying bacon, sizzling burgers, and fresh pies created an inviting atmosphere, while booths and stools encouraged shared stories and rest. Menus balanced practicality and indulgence with milkshakes, sandwiches, and daily specials. Today, these diners evoke nostalgia for open-road adventures, Americana charm, and a time when travel was personal, social, and flavorful, reminding us of the simple pleasures of roadside dining during mid-century journeys. Dashboard cigarette lighters. Dashboard cigarette lighters were a standard feature in mid-century automobiles, reflecting both the cultural norms and design aesthetics of the era. Often a small chrome-plated cylinder nestled into the dashboard, the lighter was heated by pressing it in, then released to ignite cigarettes in a matter of seconds. For drivers and passengers, it offered convenience and independence, eliminating the need for matches while on the road. Beyond its functional purpose, the lighter contributed to the car's overall style, complementing polished dashboards, gleaming knobs, and sweeping lines. It became part of the ritual of driving, lighting up during a long journey, offering a brief pause or moment of reflection, and sometimes serving as a conversation starter. Today, dashboard cigarette lighters evoke nostalgia for an era when smoking was socially accepted. Cars were designed with flair, and even small functional details were crafted with a sense of style and mechanical elegance. Airplane meals with real cutlery. Mid-20th century airplane meals were full-service affairs, served on china with metal cutlery, cloth napkins, and small glasses. Flight attendants navigated narrow aisles with trays of roast meats, vegetables, and desserts, turning dining into a luxurious, elevated experience. Passengers dressed smartly, enjoying the novelty and elegance of eating at 30,000 feet. These meals reflected an era when air travel was glamorous, sophisticated, and carefully curated. Today, airplane meals with real cutlery evoke nostalgia for a time when flying was an event, combining adventure, attentive service, and culinary care, making each journey a memorable occasion. Sunday pot roast dinners. Sunday pot roast dinners were mid-century family staples, featuring slow-cooked beef with carrots, potatoes, and onions. The rich aroma signaled warmth, togetherness, and the weekly ritual of gathering around the table. Accompanied by homemade gravy, fresh bread, and seasonal sides, these meals nourished both body and relationships, fostering conversation, laughter, and lasting memories. Today, they evoke nostalgia for slower, intentional family life, when cooking was an act of care and weekly dinners celebrated tradition, connection, and the comforting rhythm of home-cooked meals. Sitting down for 3 meals together. Shared breakfasts, lunches, and dinners structured mid-century family life, offering opportunities for conversation, connection, and routine. Meals ranged from morning toast and eggs to elaborate dinners with roasts or casseroles. These rituals reinforced unity, taught manners, and created lasting bonds. Today, memories of eating together evoke nostalgia for intentional family time, slower rhythms, and the warmth of daily shared nourishment that grounded households in connection and care. Sewing circles. Sewing circles brought mid-century women together to stitch quilts, mend clothes, and share fabrics while exchanging stories, recipes, and advice. These gatherings blended creativity, mentorship, and social connection, nurturing friendships across neighborhoods and communities. The rhythm of needles, vibrant fabrics, and gentle conversation created a comforting, productive atmosphere. Today, sewing circles evoke nostalgia for an era when domestic skills were celebrated, social interaction was intentional, and simple acts of craftsmanship fostered enduring bonds among friends and neighbors. Front porch swings. Front porch swings were a beloved feature of mid-century American homes, offering a place to relax, reflect, and connect with family and neighbors. Suspended from the porch ceiling, these swings gently rocked back and forth, providing a soothing rhythm that invited conversation, storytelling, or quiet contemplation. Children might perch on the ends, swinging high with laughter, while adults enjoyed the simple pleasure of an evening breeze and the fading light of the day. The front porch itself was a threshold between private and public life, and the swing became a focal point for hospitality, welcoming neighbors for chats over lemonade or coffee. On warm summer evenings, the gentle creak of the swing, the scent of flowering gardens, and the soft sounds of neighborhood life created a sense of peace and community. Today, front porch swings evoke nostalgia for a slower, more intentional era, where time spent together, outdoors and in conversation, was treasured. Backyard clotheslines. Backyard clotheslines were a staple of mid-century American homes, combining practicality, thrift, and daily ritual. Sheets, shirts, and towels flapped in the sun and wind, clipped carefully with clothespins to dry evenly. The act was meditative, offering fresh air, seasonal observation, and neighborly greetings over fences. Beyond utility, line drying infused laundry with sensory pleasures, the scent of sun, the rustle of fabric, and the satisfaction of neatly dried clothes. Today, backyard clotheslines evoke nostalgia for a slower, hands-on approach to household chores, where patience, care, and simple rhythms shaped everyday life and connected families to the natural world. Door-to-door encyclopedia salesman. Door-to-door encyclopedia salesmen represented knowledge, opportunity, and education. Suit-clad and carrying sample volumes, They visited homes to showcase colorful pages, illustrations, and excerpts, highlighting academic value for children. Their charm, persistence, and personal connection made the purchase meaningful and prestigious. Families often invested in these sets with pride, embracing the promise of learning. Today, memories of encyclopedia salesmen evoke nostalgia for a time when education was tangible, personal, and delivered with dedication, bringing knowledge directly to the doorstep. Family photo slideshows with projectors. Family photo slideshows turned evenings into celebrations of memories. Parents projected 35mm slides onto walls, while storytelling brought vacations, birthdays, and milestones to life. The projectors were the advancing clicks, and shared conversation created intimacy. Today, these rituals evoke nostalgia for a slower, communal way of sharing life's moments. Home milkshakes in mason jars. Home milkshakes in mason jars combine sweetness, simplicity, and style. Milk, ice cream, and flavorings were blended and poured into jars, sometimes topped with whipped cream or cherries. The clink of spoons and creamy swirls made enjoying them a multi-sensory ritual. Today, they evoke nostalgia for homemade treats, family togetherness, and the tactile pleasures of mid-century kitchens. Church socials and potlucks. Church socials and potlucks were cherished gatherings in mid-century American communities, blending faith, fellowship, and food into lively, memorable events. Held in church halls or fellowship rooms, these gatherings brought neighbors, friends, and families together, creating a sense of connection that extended beyond Sunday services. Tables were laden with home-cooked dishes, casseroles, pies, salads, and breads, each recipe reflecting personal traditions and regional flavors. Attendees would sample a little of everything, share cooking tips, and exchange stories, laughter filling the room alongside the clatter of plates and utensils. Children played nearby while adults mingled, forging relationships that strengthened community bonds. Potlucks were not just about nourishment. They were celebrations of generosity, creativity, and togetherness. Today, church socials and potlucks evoke nostalgia for a time when community life was deeply personal, when meals were a shared experience, and when simple acts of hospitality created enduring memories of warmth, connection, and belonging. Christmas catalogs from Sears. Christmas catalogs from Sears were a highlight of the holiday season in mid-century America, bringing the magic of gift-giving into living rooms long before online shopping existed. These thick, colorful books arrived in the mail, filled with pages of toys, clothing, appliances, and novelty items, each photograph promising joy and possibility. Children eagerly flipped through the catalog, circling their favorite toys with pencils, imagining the thrill of discovering them under the tree. Parents and grandparents studied pages carefully, planning gifts that balanced desire, practicality, and budget. The Sears catalog was more than a shopping guide. It was a seasonal ritual, sparking conversation, wish lists, and anticipation for the holidays. Its pages captured the imagination with illustrations and photographs, offering a glimpse of trends, technology, and culture of the time. Today, Sears Christmas catalogs evoke nostalgia for a slower, tangible, and communal holiday experience, where dreams and planning unfolded one carefully turned page at a time. Poodle skirts. Poodle skirts were a 1950s fashion icon, full, swingy, and often adorned with appliques of poodles, jukeboxes, or musical notes. Paired with fitted sweaters, saddle shoes, and scarves, they twirled dramatically on the dance floor at sock hops and school dances. Making a skirt could be a personal project, allowing girls to express creativity through colors and embellishments. Beyond style, Poodle skirts symbolized post-war optimism and the rise of teenage culture, reflecting a generation eager for music, dance, and self-expression. Today, they evoke nostalgia for spirited youth, joyful sock hops, and the playful exuberance of mid-century American fashion. Saddle shoes. Saddle shoes were a practical and stylish staple of mid-century fashion, featuring white leather uppers with dark contrasting saddles. Popular with children and teens, they were paired with bobby socks, skirts, or slacks for school and social events. Durable, comfortable, and versatile, saddle shoes reflected youth culture, modesty, and spirited activity. Today, they evoke nostalgia for playful, practical style and the vibrant energy of mid-century American life. Bobby pins in every drawer. Bobby pins were essential in every mid-century dresser drawer, keeping hairstyles neat, secure, and stylish. Used for updos, twists, and layers, they combined function with subtle flair. Often abundant for emergencies or last-minute touch-ups, bobby pins were part of daily grooming routines, passed-down tips, and creative experimentation. Today, they evoke nostalgia for a time when personal grooming was both ritualized and artful. Brile cream, a little dabble do ya. Brile cream promised sleek, polished hair with minimal effort, helping men achieve the iconic slicked-back style of the 1950s. Its scent, shine, and daily application became a comforting ritual, symbolizing masculinity, neatness, and sophistication. Today, Brile cream evokes nostalgia for a time when grooming was intentional, style was curated, and a small dab could make a lasting impression. Seamed stockings. Seamed stockings epitomized elegance and femininity, with a line up the back enhancing shape and posture. Worn with skirts and heels, they required care to align seams perfectly. These stockings reflected mid-century ideals of glamour, poise, and attention to detail. Today, seamed stockings evoke nostalgia for meticulous style, where small touches elevated everyday fashion. Letterman jackets. Letterman jackets symbolized achievement, school pride, and youthful identity. Wool with leather sleeves, embroidered letters signified athletic or extracurricular accomplishments. Worn at games and school events, they blended fashion with personal and collective identity. Today, Letterman jackets evoke nostalgia for tangible recognition, camaraderie, and the pride of mid-century student life. White gloves for Sunday service. White gloves were a mid-century symbol of elegance, propriety, and respect for church services. Paired with dresses and hats, they signaled preparation and social grace. Children learned manners and presentation early, while gloves conveyed dignity and reverence. Today, white gloves evoke nostalgia for ceremonial dressing and family tradition. Pin curls set overnight. Pin curls were a nightly beauty ritual, twisting damp hair into curls secured by pins to set overnight. By morning, soft waves or voluminous curls reflected elegance, patience, and feminine sophistication. Mothers often taught daughters, passing down technique and tradition. Today, pin curls evoke nostalgia for meticulous, hands-on styling and a slower, deliberate approach to beauty. High-waisted dungarees. High-waisted dungarees were a practical yet stylish staple of mid-century American wardrobes, worn by children, teens, and even adults for work, play, and casual outings. Constructed from durable denim, these overalls featured a high-rise waist, often with buttons or adjustable straps, providing comfort, support, and freedom of movement. They were ideal for active days outdoors, whether gardening, climbing trees, or exploring neighborhoods, and their rugged material withstood frequent wear and washings. Beyond utility, high-waisted dungarees became a symbol of casual style, often paired with simple shirts, rolled sleeves, and sturdy shoes, reflecting the era's blend of functionality and fashion. For children, dungarees were a uniform of adventure and independence, while adults appreciated their practicality and ease. Today, memories of high-waisted dungarees evoke nostalgia for a time when clothing was durable, versatile, and tied to everyday life, embodying comfort, activity, and the spirited energy of mid-century American living. Matching family pajamas. Matching family pajamas were a cherished tradition in mid-century American households, particularly during holidays and special occasions. Coordinated sets, often featuring festive patterns like plaids, stripes, or seasonal motifs, were worn by parents and children alike, creating a sense of unity, warmth, and playfulness. The ritual of putting on matching pajamas added a layer of excitement to bedtime, especially during Christmas, when families might pose for photographs, exchange stories, or read holiday tales together. Beyond aesthetics, these pajamas fostered a sense of belonging and togetherness, turning ordinary evenings into memorable shared experiences. Parents carefully selected fabrics and designs to ensure comfort and durability, while children delighted in the novelty of looking like their siblings or parents. Today, matching family pajamas evoke nostalgia for a time when simple gestures strengthened family bonds. Bedtime became a special occasion, and coordinated sleepwear offered both comfort and joy, encapsulating the spirit of familial warmth and playful tradition. Hopscotch with chalk. Hopscotch with chalk was a beloved mid-century pastime, transforming sidewalks, driveways, and schoolyards into playful arenas. Children drew numbered grids, tossing stones, coins, or beanbags, hopping on one foot through the sequence. The game encouraged balance, coordination, counting, and turn-taking, while sparking laughter, camaraderie, and friendly rivalry. Sidewalk chalk added creativity, letting kids personalize and refresh courts daily. Accessible, simple, and inclusive, hopscotch fostered outdoor activity, neighborhood connection, and childhood ingenuity. Today, it evokes nostalgia for unstructured play, imaginative games, and the shared joy of physical, social, and creative engagement during an era when play was hands-on and communal. Marbles and jacks. Marbles and jacks were classic mid-century games emphasizing skill, dexterity, and friendly competition. Marbles were flicked in chalk circles to knock opponents' pieces out, while jacks required bouncing a ball and collecting metal pieces in succession. Portable, inexpensive, and easily played on sidewalks, playgrounds, or tables, they encouraged patience, strategy, hand-eye coordination, and social interaction. Friends shared tricks, challenged each other, and spent hours in playful rivalry. Today, marbles and jacks evoke nostalgia for tactile, imaginative play, childhood camaraderie, and a time when simple, hands-on games shaped afternoons filled with creativity, skill, and joyful competition. Lunch pails with thermoses. Lunch pails with thermoses were essential for school and work, combining practicality with personal style. Metal pails held sandwiches and snacks, while thermoses kept liquids warm. Children carried them decorated with favorite characters. Workers used them for homemade meals. Packing a lunch was an act of care, fostering routine, camaraderie, and nourishment. Today, they evoke nostalgia for thoughtfully prepared, portable meals and a hands-on era of daily life. where food and care were intertwined. Blackboard eraser duty. Blackboard eraser duty was a familiar responsibility in mid-century classrooms, often assigned to students as part of daily routines. Wielding the thick, felt-covered eraser, the appointed student would wipe away chalk markings, clearing the slate for the next lesson. This task required care and thoroughness, ensuring that writing from previous classes did not obscure new lessons or diagrams. Though simple, it carried a sense of responsibility and pride, giving students a tangible way to contribute to the smooth functioning of the classroom. The rhythmic back and forth motion, combined with the faint scent of chalk dust, became a sensory memory for many, as did the occasional puff of dust that lingered in the air. Blackboard eraser duty also fostered attentiveness, patience, and a sense of teamwork, as classmates relied on one another to maintain an organized learning space. Today, it evokes nostalgia for a hands-on, orderly, and communal approach to education, where even small tasks were meaningful. Cursive handwriting practice. Cursive handwriting practice was a cornerstone of mid-century education, emphasizing discipline, fine motor skills, and elegance in written communication. Students spent hours with pencils or fountain pens, carefully forming loops, swirls, and connecting letters on lined paper, striving for neatness and uniformity. Copybooks or worksheets guided their strokes, offering repetitive exercises that reinforced muscle memory and precision. The practice instilled patience and attention to detail, as every letter and word was an opportunity to refine control and style. Beyond functionality, cursive handwriting carried aesthetic value, reflecting personal pride and refinement, and was often used for letters, invitations, and personal notes. Teachers frequently displayed exemplary work, praising diligence and encouraging improvement. Today, cursive handwriting practice evokes nostalgia for a slower, more deliberate approach to learning, where skill and artistry were intertwined, and penmanship was a mark of care, education, and personal expression in an era when handwritten communication held both practical and cultural significance. Jump rope rhymes. Jump rope rhymes were a beloved part of childhood in mid-century America, turning simple playground activities into rhythmic, social, and imaginative experiences. Children would gather on sidewalks, schoolyards, or driveways, swinging long ropes while chanting or singing catchy verses that dictated the pace, number of jumps, or playful challenges. These rhymes ranged from silly and humorous to clever and competitive, often passed down from friends or older siblings, evolving with each retelling. Jump rope games encouraged coordination, timing, and endurance, while the chants fostered memory, creativity, and camaraderie. Beyond physical activity, the rhymes were a form of oral tradition, reflecting cultural references, humor, and shared knowledge of the era. Laughter and friendly rivalry accompanied each session, creating lasting memories of friendship and play. Today, jump rope rhymes evoke nostalgia for a time when children's games were active, collaborative, and inventive, blending movement, music, and imagination into everyday fun. Yo-yos. Yo-yos were a captivating mid-century toy, offering endless opportunities for skill, competition, and imagination. Made from wood, plastic, or metal, they glided up and down a string, challenging children to master tricks like walk the dog or around the world. Shared among friends, yo-yos encouraged patience, coordination, and persistence, making them a staple of playgrounds, sidewalks, and living rooms. Today, they evoke nostalgia for a time when simple toys captured attention, creativity flourished, and childhood ingenuity turned a small spinning object into hours of fun and social connection. Metal jungle gyms. Metal jungle gyms defined mid-century playgrounds, offering climbing bars, slides, and monkey bars for physical challenge and adventure. Children scrambled, swung, and explored, fostering strength, balance, and social interaction. Their tactile surfaces and open design encouraged risk-taking and imaginative play. Today, jungle gyms evoke nostalgia for unstructured outdoor childhood fun, independence, and community. School milk cartons for 2 cents. School milk cartons for 2 cents were a small but significant part of mid-century American childhood, offering a simple, nourishing treat that fit into the daily rhythm of school life. Delivered in tiny cardboard cartons, these milks were affordable, wholesome, and convenient, providing students with a quick source of calcium and energy between lessons. Teachers and cafeteria staff distributed the cartons with care, making the ritual of purchasing and drinking milk a shared experience among classmates. The modest price reflected the era's focus on accessibility and public health, ensuring that children from diverse backgrounds could enjoy a nutritious beverage. For many students, the act of sipping from the small spout while chatting with friends or listening to the day's announcements became a familiar comfort. Today, memories of school milk cartons for 2 cents evoke nostalgia for a simpler time when small pleasures, communal routines, and practical nutrition shaped daily school experiences. Teachers with pointer sticks. Teachers with pointer sticks were a familiar sight in mid-century classrooms, symbolizing authority, instruction, and the structured learning environment of the era. These long, slender rods, often made of wood or metal, allowed educators to direct attention to maps, blackboards, charts, or diagrams, making lessons more precise and engaging. Wielding a pointer stick required skill and presence, as teachers used it to emphasize key points, guide students through complex material, or maintain classroom focus. The stick's rhythmic movements became part of the visual cadence of lessons, reinforcing discipline while supporting comprehension. For students, it was a tangible cue for where to look, what to note, and how to follow along, blending instruction with subtle performance. Today, memories of teachers with pointer sticks evoke nostalgia for a time when learning was structured, deliberate, and tactile, reminding us of an era in which teaching combined authority, visual guidance, and a carefully orchestrated classroom rhythm. Soda fountains in pharmacies. Soda fountains in pharmacies were a mid-century staple, blending refreshment, socializing, and indulgence. Alongside shelves of medicines, patrons enjoyed ice cream sodas, root beer floats, and milkshakes, served with swirled straws at gleaming counters. Soda jerks layered flavors, whipped cream, and syrups, creating treats both tasty and visually appealing. These fountains fostered community, where neighbors met, shared stories, and took brief escapes from routine. Today, they evoke nostalgia for a time when errands were punctuated by simple pleasures, and a soda could brighten the day. Bowling leagues. Bowling leagues offered social recreation and friendly competition. Teams met weekly, enjoying the rhythmic clatter of pins, polished balls, and lively camaraderie. Alleys doubled as hubs with snack bars and jukeboxes. Participation encouraged teamwork, sportsmanship, and community. Barbershops as social hubs. In the 1950s America, the barbershop was more than a place for a haircut. It was the unofficial town square. Beneath the red, white, and blue barber pole, men of all ages gathered not just to tidy up their looks, but to trade stories, jokes, and the latest local gossip. A good barber knew every customer by name and often by life story, offering a steady hand with the scissors and sometimes a listening ear for worries that never made it home. Teenagers came in for their first grown-up cuts, proud to sit in the same chair as their fathers, while retirees lingered in the worn leather seats, laughing at tales they'd heard a dozen times. It was a space where politics mixed with baseball scores, and neighbors became friends. Long before smartphones or Twitter threads, the barbershop kept communities sharp, both in style and in spirit. Neighborhood block parties. In the 1950s, neighborhood block parties were the highlight of community life, a time when entire streets came alive with laughter, music, and the aroma of home-cooked dishes. Families dragged picnic tables and lawn chairs out to the sidewalks, and kids raced around with popsicles while parents swapped recipes and caught up on local news. Someone usually hauled out a record player or radio, filling the air with rock and roll or swing tunes that had everyone tapping their feet. These gatherings weren't just about fun, they were about belonging. In an era before smartphones or streaming entertainment, the joy of community was found in sharing potato salad, dancing under string lights, and knowing every neighbor by name. Block parties strengthened bonds, turned acquaintances into friends, and created memories that lingered long after the tables were folded away. It was connection, pure and simple, built right outside your front door. VFW fish fries. In the 1950s, America, VFW fish fries were beloved community gatherings that blended fundraising, fellowship, and comfort food. Hosted by local veterans of foreign wars halls, these events filled the air with the scent of sizzling catfish or perch. Volunteers, often veterans, manned bubbling fryers, serving golden fillets on paper plates alongside lemonade and coffee. Families arrived in Sunday casual attire, children darted between tables, and newcomers were warmly welcomed. More than just a meal, the fish fry fostered pride, connection, and support for local causes, with laughter and shared stories weaving the community closer together with every bite. Movie matinees for 25 cents. Back in the 1950s, a quarter could buy you a golden ticket to Pure Magic, the Saturday afternoon movie matinee. For just 25 cents, kids packed the neighborhood theaters, popcorn in hand, eyes wide as the lights dimmed and the screen flickered to life. Cowboys galloped across the plains, space heroes battled aliens, and slapstick comedians had audiences howling. Parents loved matinees too, since they offered a few quiet hours while the kids escaped into Technicolor adventures. The theaters themselves had a charm: velvet curtains, sticky floors, and ushers with flashlights guiding rowdy groups to their seats. The price of admission made it possible for nearly everyone to join in, turning movies into a shared experience rather than a rare luxury. Walking home afterward, kids reenacted the action scenes in the street, their imaginations running wild. It was more than entertainment. It was a weekly ritual that stitched neighborhoods together. Street vendors with pushcarts. In the 1950s, street vendors with pushcarts were part of the neighborhood's rhythm, their calls as familiar as passing cars. Wooden wheels rattled under loads of fresh fruit, roasted peanuts, or ice-cold sodas. Children trailed behind, nickels clutched in sweaty palms, eager for a sweet treat. Vendors knew their customers by face and name. Offering more than goods, they brought connection and personality to the streets. For many immigrants, pushcarts were both livelihood and opportunity. Housewives called down orders from windows. Kids ran at the sound of a whistle, and the best store was the one that came to you. Door-to-door milkmen and breadmen. In the 1950s, mornings often began with the quiet clink of glass bottles being set on the doorstep by the milkman. Right behind him might come the breadman, carrying fresh loaves wrapped in paper, their warm aroma lingering in the air. These daily visits weren't just about groceries, they were about trust and rhythm, a dependable part of neighborhood life. Housewives chatted briefly at the door. Kids peered out in their pajamas, and everyone knew their delivery man by name. Accounts were often kept on a tab, settled at the end of the week with a handshake. The convenience was unmatched. No racing to the store, no worrying about freshness. The milkman and breadman were the human connection in the supply chain, ensuring homes were stocked and spirits lifted. Today we track deliveries on an app, but back then, a smile and a loaf were notification enough. Parades with candy tossed to kids. In the 1950s, parades were eagerly awaited community events. Families lined the streets, children perched on curbsides with eager hands ready to catch treats. Floats decorated with crepe paper and patriotic bunting rolled by, while marching bands filled the air with lively tunes. The highlight came when participants tossed candy into the crowd, peppermints, Tootsie Rolls, or sticks of gum. Kids scrambled and laughed, their paper bags filling with sweet prizes as parents cheered. These parades were homemade and heartfelt, celebrating pride and togetherness, with each tossed piece of candy carrying a little joy and connection through the bustling crowd. Bridge clubs. In the 1950s, bridge clubs were more than a pastime. They were a lifeline of friendship, routine, and social sparkle. Once a week, neighbors gathered around card tables covered with lace cloths or vinyl pads, the air filled with the shuffle of decks and the clink of coffee cups. Women especially embraced these clubs, often rotating houses so each hostess could showcase her baking skills alongside her trump strategy. It wasn't just about winning hands, it was about laughter, gossip, and a shared sense of belonging. Husbands sometimes joined in, though the game was as much about conversation as competition. For many, bridge night was a cherished escape from chores and routines, a chance to dress up a little and feel part of something larger than the daily grind. In an age before streaming and social media, bridge clubs stitched together communities one deal, one story, and one slice of cake at a time. Black and white TV test patterns. In the 1950s, before non-stop programming, TV stations signed off at night, leaving behind the iconic black and white test pattern, often featuring a Native American chief's head framed by geometric lines and circles. It was a tool for engineers to calibrate picture and sound. For viewers, it signaled the day's end, accompanied by a steady, droning tone. Kids who stayed up late stared at it in fascination, while adults joked it was the most dependable show on TV. These patterns now evoke nostalgia for a time when even television had an off switch, and nights ended in peaceful, quiet hums. Party lines on the telephone. In the 1950s, before private phone lines became common, many households shared what were known as party lines. A single line could connect two or more homes, meaning that when the phone rang, you had to listen carefully to the pattern to know if the call was meant for you or the neighbors. It was an exercise in patience and sometimes temptation, since eavesdropping was as easy as quietly lifting the receiver. Teenagers groaned when a neighbor hogged the line, while mothers perfected the art of politely negotiating phone time. Despite the inconvenience, party lines created a quirky sense of community, linking households in an intimate, if sometimes frustrating, way. Everyone knew a little too much about everyone else, yet it also built a thread of connection. Today we guard our privacy with passwords and apps, but back then, sharing a phone line meant sharing a slice of daily life. Flashbulb cameras. In the 1950s, capturing a family moment often meant pulling out the trusty flashbulb camera. Unlike today's pocket-sized phones that snap endless photos, these cameras required a bit of ritual. Each shot needed a fresh flashbulb, small, silver bulbs that popped with a blinding burst of light, leaving subjects blinking and seeing spots. The smell of burnt magnesium lingered in the air, almost like the scent of memories being sealed. People posed stiffly, knowing every picture was precious, not disposable, and the cost of film made each click count. Weddings, graduations, and birthday parties all bore the signature glare of a flashbulb, immortalizing grins and squints in equal measure. There was anticipation too, as families waited for film to be developed, gathering around to relive the moments days later. Though clunky and inconvenient, flashbulb cameras turned ordinary events into grand occasions, giving the everyday a spotlight worthy of Hollywood. Slide rules for math. In the 1950s, before calculators, slide rules were essential for students, engineers, and scientists. Resembling simple rulers, their sliding scales could multiply, divide, and even calculate square roots or logarithms. Carried in leather cases clipped to belts, they symbolized precision and skill. Mastering a slide rule required practice and understanding, with speed and accuracy earning instant respect. The soft clack of sliding parts was the soundtrack of problem solving, long before digital screens. For many, the slide rule wasn't just a tool, but a rite of passage, linking human effort to the beautiful, hands-on language of mathematics. Cigarette vending machines. In the 1950s, cigarette vending machines were a familiar sight. Glowing temptations tucked into diners, bus stations, and corner stores. For a few coins, you could pull a chrome lever and watch as a neat pack of Lucky Strikes or Camels slid into the tray below, as effortlessly as grabbing a candy bar today. These machines embodied the era's casual relationship with smoking, when cigarettes were marketed as glamorous accessories rather than health hazards. Teenagers often lingered around them, hoping to look older, while adults appreciated the convenience of buying smokes on the go without waiting in line. The machines themselves were stylish, all polished metal and bold lettering, reflecting the post-war fascination with modern design. Looking back, it's almost surreal to imagine tobacco sold as easily as gum. But in mid-century America, these vending machines were symbols of both accessibility and the cultural grip of smoking. Record needles wearing out. In the 1950s, when vinyl ruled the living room, record needles were both a blessing and a curse. The turntable was the crown jewel of family entertainment, spinning everything from swing to early rock and roll. But that tiny needle determined the life of the music. With each play, the stylus wore down just a little more, and eventually the warm crackle of vinyl turned into a scratchy hiss. Music lovers kept extra needles in drawers, ready to swap them out like light bulbs. Some even stretched their use too far, leaving beloved records etched with permanent scars. Teenagers groaned when their favorite 45 skipped mid-song, while dads carefully demonstrated how to lower the tone arm without a clumsy thud. Unlike today's endless playlists, each spin of a record was a delicate act, a reminder that joy had to be maintained, and that even music required a little TLC. Clunky hearing aids. In the 1950s, hearing aids were anything but discreet. Unlike the tiny, near-invisible devices of today, they were bulky contraptions that often resembled pocket radios, with wires running to oversized earpieces. Many were worn in shirt pockets or clipped to belts, with cords snaking up to the ear in plain view. They whistled with feedback at the worst possible moments, drawing more attention than they masked. Yet they were also life-changing for those who used them. Families learned to speak a little louder, adjusting to the pauses as someone fiddled with dials and batteries. Though clunky by modern standards, these early devices represented a step toward independence, giving people the chance to rejoin conversations that once passed them by. They carried a certain dignity, too, a reminder that technology, no matter how awkward, was bridging gaps. In their humming, whirring way, they restored connection, which was the real miracle. Film projectors that jammed. In the 1950s, a school day or community event often meant gathering in a darkened room as the whir of a film projector filled the air. The excitement was real, until the inevitable happened. The film jammed. The picture froze, the reel stuttered, and within seconds, the screen glowed with a melting blob as the celluloid scorched under the bulb. Groans and laughter erupted from the audience while the poor teacher or projectionist scrambled to fix the tangle of film, muttering under their breath. Kids secretly loved these interruptions because it meant class was stalled, if only for a few glorious minutes. Projection mishaps became part of the ritual, as common as the smell of dust and warm metal from the machine itself. Today's flawless digital streaming feels sterile in comparison. Back then, a jammed projector was a shared moment of chaos that somehow made the story more memorable. Polaroid cameras, early models. In the 1950s, the arrival of Polaroid cameras felt nothing short of magical. At a time when most photographs meant waiting days for film to be developed, Polaroid promised instant gratification. With a click, a soft whir, and the pull of a paper tab, an image began to appear right before your eyes. Families gathered around, watching the ghostly outlines sharpen into recognizable faces, like memories materializing in real time. Early Polaroids were clunky and a little temperamental, but their novelty outweighed the quirks. Birthdays, vacations, and everyday silliness could be captured and shared within minutes, making them the social media of their day. People passed the fresh prints around the room, smudging the edges in their eagerness to see. Though grainy and imperfect, those instant photos carried an intimacy that glossy prints never did. A Polaroid wasn't just a picture. It was a moment you could hold immediately. Payphones on every corner. In the 1950s, payphones were as common as streetlights, standing proudly on city corners, in diners, and outside gas stations. For just a few coins, you could step into a glass booth, close the door, and connect with anyone across town or across the country, if your pocket change allowed. The clink of a nickel dropping in, the hum of the dial tone, and the click of the rotary dial were all part of the ritual. Teenagers used them to call home for rides, traveling salesmen checked in with the office, and families on road trips relied on them to announce safe arrivals. There was a sense of privacy and drama inside those little booths, even though everyone outside could see you through the glass. Before cell phones made communication constant, payphones offered connection when you needed it most, tethering communities together one coin and one call at a time. Trusting neighbors with house keys. In the 1950s, neighborhoods ran on trust, and nothing symbolized that more than handing a spare house key to the folks next door. It wasn't unusual for a neighbor to feed the dog, water the garden, or even keep an eye on the kids while mom ran errands. Keys were exchanged with a smile and a sense of confidence that your home and your secrets were safe in someone else's hands. This quiet tradition spoke volumes about the era's sense of community, when front doors were often left unlocked and neighbors weren't just acquaintances, but extended family. Children dashed in and out of each other's homes without hesitation, and if you forgot your own key, it was no crisis. Just knock on Mrs. Johnson's door. Today we rely on smart locks, security cameras, and codes, but back then, trust was the real safeguard, and the strongest locks were built on friendship. Kids walking to school alone. In the 1950s, the morning ritual of kids walking to school alone was a scene repeated in towns and cities across America. Children, often as young as 6 or 7, slung books under their arms or carried tin lunch pails as they set off down sidewalks or dirt roads, sometimes joined by siblings or a gaggle of neighborhood friends. Parents waved from porches without worry, trusting that the journey itself built independence and resilience. Along the way, kids kicked stones, traded marbles, and swapped stories, turning the walk into its own adventure before the first bell rang. Crossing guards in crisp uniforms watched over the busiest intersections, but most of the trek was unsupervised, filled with the sound of sneakers on pavement and laughter carrying in the morning air. Today, car lines and buses dominate, but back then, the walk to school was as formative as the lessons inside. Paperboys on bicycles. In the 1950s, the sight of a paperboy pedaling down the street at dawn was as familiar as the sunrise itself. Balanced on sturdy bicycles with canvas bags slung across their shoulders, these kids tossed rolled newspapers onto porches with a precision that came only from practice. The thump of the paper hitting the steps was a household alarm clock, announcing the day had begun. For many boys, and a few determined girls, the paper route was their first real job, teaching responsibility, punctuality, and the art of collecting payments door to door on Saturdays. Neighbors knew their paperboy by name, often slipping him a cookie or a glass of milk on collection day. Rain, shine, or snow, the papers still arrived, proof of a dedication that outlasted the weather. Before delivery vans and digital headlines, the paperboy's bicycle was the link between the wider world and the neighborhood, one edition at a time. Handwritten letters. In the 1950s, handwritten letters were more than just a way to send messages. They were treasured keepsakes that carried a person's voice across miles. Whether folded neatly into an envelope for a sweetheart overseas, a child at summer camp, or family in another town, each letter bore the unique rhythm of pen strokes and the quirks of individual handwriting. Stationery, ink, and sometimes even perfume turned these notes into deeply personal tokens, far more meaningful than any quick call on the telephone. People took time to sit at kitchen tables or desks, carefully choosing their words, knowing the recipient would savor every line. Mailboxes became vessels of excitement, and the sound of the postman's steps often brought a spark of anticipation. Long before email and text messages, handwritten letters built connections that felt lasting and intimate, reminders that the simplest gestures often carried the greatest weight. Flag ceremonies in schools. In the 1950s, flag ceremonies in schools were daily rituals that instilled a sense of pride, unity, and discipline among students. Each morning, children gathered in classrooms or around the flagpole outside, standing tall with hands over their hearts, as they recited the Pledge of Allegiance in unison. The raising of the stars and stripes was often accompanied by the sound of a trumpet, or the voices of students singing patriotic songs, creating a solemn yet uplifting atmosphere. Teachers used these moments to teach respect, responsibility, and the values of citizenship, reminding students of their shared identity as Americans. For many children, it was their first introduction to the ideas of duty and belonging, experiences that stayed with them into adulthood. These ceremonies were not just about saluting the flag, but about beginning the school day with a collective sense of purpose and connection to something larger than themselves. Neighborhood Watch without a title. Back in the 1950s, long before organized programs and official signs declaring a neighborhood watch, communities naturally looked out for one another. People knew their neighbors by name, and they paid attention to who belonged and who didn't. If a strange car lingered too long on the block, someone would step outside, wave, and politely, but firmly, ask if they needed directions. Parents felt safe letting their kids roam the streets because they knew eyes were always on them, whether it was Mrs. Johnson from her kitchen window or Mr. Smith watering his lawn. It wasn't a system written in manuals, but rather an unspoken agreement that safety and trust were everyone's responsibility. There was comfort in knowing that if you left town, your neighbors would notice any odd activity around your house. It was security built on familiarity, trust, and a collective sense of responsibility, not surveillance cameras. Latchkey kids before it was a term. In the 1950s, long before latchkey kid became a household phrase, plenty of children lived that very reality without anyone labeling it. With dads working long hours and more mothers beginning to take on part-time jobs, kids often came home from school to an empty house. They carried their house key on a string around their necks, or tucked it into a pocket, letting themselves in with a sense of independence that was both ordinary and extraordinary. Afternoons were spent fixing simple snacks, doing homework at the kitchen table, or wandering outside to play until the streetlights came on. No one thought it was unusual or dangerous. It was just life. This quiet autonomy shaped a generation that learned responsibility early, navigating small decisions without constant adult oversight. Though modern parenting often gasps at the thought, those unsupervised hours became breeding grounds for resilience, resourcefulness, and unspoken confidence. Backyard camping. In the 1950s, backyard camping was the kind of childhood adventure that required no ticket, no reservation, and certainly no parental micromanaging. A couple of blankets draped over a clothesline, a flashlight with half-dead batteries, and maybe a bag of marshmallows were all it took to transform an ordinary yard into a wilderness expedition. Kids huddled in sleeping bags, swapping ghost stories while fireflies blinked in the dark, pretending every rustle of leaves was a bear lurking nearby. Parents could keep an eye from the kitchen window, comforted by the knowledge that the great outdoors was only a few feet from the back door. These nights blended the thrill of independence with the safety of home, giving children the best of both worlds. Today's version might involve glow-in-the-dark tents and Bluetooth speakers, but back then, it was pure imagination and the simple magic of sleeping under the stars. Saying grace at the table. In the 1950s America, saying grace before meals was as natural as passing the mashed potatoes. Families gathered around the dinner table, not scattered with phones or rushing to separate schedules, but united in a quiet pause of gratitude. The words were often simple, sometimes memorized, sometimes spoken from the heart. A thanks for the food, for the hands that prepared it, and for the chance to share it together. Children learned early to bow their heads and wait respectfully, even if their stomachs growled at the sight of steaming roast or fresh biscuits. These small rituals reinforced the sense that mealtime was sacred, not just about eating, but about connection, humility, and reflection. While modern life often skips past such moments in favor of convenience, those blessings once framed family dinners as more than daily routine. They were tiny reminders of abundance, togetherness, and the value of slowing down. Made in the USA pride. In the 1950s, the phrase "made in the USA" wasn't just a label, it was a badge of honor. Post-war America was humming with industry, and factories across the country turned out everything from cars to toasters with a confidence that resonated in every household. Buying American wasn't just about economics, it was about trust. People believed in the quality of what their neighbors built, and products were expected to last, not break down after a season. A new washing machine or radio wasn't just a purchase, it was an investment, often showcased with pride in the home. Workers felt connected to what they produced, and families took pride in supporting local jobs simply by shopping. Today, when labels stretch across the globe, that sense of shared accomplishment has faded. Back then though, owning something stamped with "Made in the USA" carried a deep satisfaction that money alone couldn't buy. That's our stroll down memory lane through 1950s America. Back when life felt simpler, neighbors looked out for each other, and little moments carried so much meaning. Which of these forgotten things brought back memories for you? Share your favorite in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves a bit of nostalgia too. Until next time, here's to keeping the past alive, one memory at a time.